My name is Bree, and today I am going to be sharing a little bit of a reading vlog. A couple weeks ago on my channel, I posted a poll where my subscribers pick my read, and my first subscriber pick was Devine Rivals. I tend to get attached to characters in books, so that's my prediction. They're going to be separated, and I feel like that's where we're going to end. We told her that it was him. I feel like 2 of my predictions came true. It's just like, oh my gosh, he's tricked me. That was one thing that really bothered me, I guess.
She said you can call me Elizabeth. I can't.
Hey, how are we doing? My name is Bree, and today I am going to be starting a little bit of a reading vlog. A couple weeks ago on my channel, I posted a poll. I was starting a new type of series where my subscribers pick my read. I thought it would be kind of fun to read and react to popular books that I have not yet read. And my first subscriber pick was Devine Rivals. I was honestly going into it with low expectations, I guess. It is a YA novel, and I do recognize that YA can be very good, but thus far I have been very pleasantly surprised. I wish I had started this before I had started reading, but I went for a walk earlier and started listening to the audio version, and then as soon as I got home I picked up the physical copy and finished out the remainder of part 1. I thought this was kind of a good place to start to kind of give my initial thoughts. So basically, this book follows the story of a young woman named Iris, and she is an aspiring journalist. However, her brother has recently gone away to war, and so far this war is kind of like fantastical in nature, like there's gods involved that are like fueling this war. The other aspect of the story is that our young protagonist, Iris, has a bit of a rival, a competitive colleague, if you will. His name is Roman Kit. They are kind of like pitted against each other for this position in their news agency. They both want to like be this or get this columnist position, and their boss has pretty explicitly pitted them against each other, saying like one of them is going to get it. Roman comes from like kind of a prestigious background. His family's very wealthy and well off, whereas Iris comes from less wealth. Her mother is addicted to alcohol. Her brother's gone in the war, and she's kind of the last person in her family trying to like kind of keep everything all together. So since Iris's brother is away at war, one way that she kind of copes with his being gone is by writing to him. And there's like this, again, like the magic system is kind of like woven into this world, and it's not really explained, which is great. I love it. So it's just kind of like accepted that like she can write these letters and like send them off through her wardrobe, and her brother is supposed to like somehow get them. However, he does not write back to her for several months. She is kind of like pouring out her soul to her brother through her letters and sending them off and not knowing whether or not he's actually getting them. Until one day she gets a response from an unknown respondent that says, "I am not Forrest." Forrest is her brother. We do learn who the mysterious correspondent is, Roman. And again, like it's not explained like why it is that Roman is getting these letters and her brother isn't, but Roman is getting these letters. So even though he's like in a bit of a rivalry and competition with Iris, he is learning about like her deepest, innermost secrets and personal life and her insecurities. Like she's basically like pouring out her soul to him. And because of this, he kind of like starts to develop feelings for her that he cannot share because she has no idea that he is receiving these letters. Roman is very much like trying to decide whether or not he should tell her, and like trying to like reconcile his feelings and like why he's afraid to tell her that it's him receiving her letters. So instead they just kind of continue this little bit of like pen pal correspondence. When tragedy strikes Iris and Roman gets the promotion, she decides to leave the agency and basically try to go to war to find her brother. Like she tells, him as her pen pal, like, "Hey, I'm leaving, like I'm not going to be writing to you anymore." And he writes her one last message, and she decides not to read it because she just thinks, or she knows, that he's just going to try to convince her to not go. And in my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, he told her that it was him. It was his like last desperate attempt to get her to stay was to tell her like, "It's me, like this is Roman, please don't go." That's my prediction at this point. I think he told her that it was him. This is turning out to be really good. I did go ahead and order the next book in the series because I have a feeling that I'm going to want to read it directly after I finish this. So I could check back in after each part. So that's where we're at. This shit is so good. This is so good. I am obsessed. I had to basically force myself to put it down at the end of part 2 in order to give my thoughts at this point. I'm really enjoying the letter writing. I feel like, to me, it's very reminiscent of pre-industrial, pre-technological communications. And there's just like that sense of poetic writing and kind of like writing for yourself, or writing as like a means of journaling, even though you're also like writing to somebody else. It feels very reminiscent of a different time. So far, this whole story really feels reminiscent of, I want to say, World War I. It feels a little vintage, a little old school, but also, of course, not too rooted in like our version of reality. I also feel like the characters in this book are very well written, very well done, and I feel like I know these characters. The settings feel very real, very homey, very cozy, even though we're in the midst of this war. Maricel's cottage, like, I just want to live there. I just want to be there forever. Again, at this point, Roman and Iris are off to the front lines, and Roman has just written Iris as Carver something that is supposed to be like very profound, like probably like giving her information or clues as to who he is. He had just prior in the story yelled for Iris out the window for a synonym for the word sublime, and she says that she is partial to divine. So I'm wondering if that little tidbit makes it into his letter as Carver. Is it Carver or Carter? Anyways, I'm wondering if that makes it into his letter as a clue. My prediction at this point is that this book is going to end on a major cliffhanger. I would dare to guess that Iris is going to piece together somehow at the end who Roman is, and then they're going to be separated. That's my prediction. They're going to be separated, and I feel like that's where we're going to end. But I do think I'm going to include my reading of the sequel in this reading vlog and just do a whole Devine Rivals reading vlog of both books. Yeah. That's where we're at. It's very good so far. I'm very invested in this one. Again, I tend to get attached to characters in books, so if I feel like the characters are well written and the characters are believable and feel very real and human to me, then I will root for them. And Rebecca Ross has definitely been able to achieve that for me. So, I was in the middle of editing this video actually when my sister called and reminded me that I had a prior engagement to attend that I had forgotten about. So instead of reading more or going for a walk and listening to the audio, I will be going to that event instead. So quickly hopped in the shower and tried to make myself as presentable as possible in a short amount of time. No.
Abby, smile.
Jug munged on my bookmark. So I finished Devine Rivals this morning. I was able to read a little bit last night. I saved myself about 50 pages this morning. I tried to end on a high note last night when everything was going well. Kit and Iris were happily together. They had resolved all their tensions and issues. So things were feeling good. Of course, since there were still about 50 or 60 pages left, I knew that something was going to go down. I feel like 2 of my predictions came true. The first prediction being that before Iris left Oath and left the note on the floor that Carter had left for her, he had come clean and admitted that he was Kit. So that was one prediction I had that came true. The second prediction I had was that Iris would find out at the very end that Kit was I need to look and see if this man called himself Carver or Carter. That took me 5 minutes. Carver. I don't even remember what I was saying. My prediction. So my prediction would be that at the end of the book, she would discover that Carver is Roman and that they would be separated immediately after that. So my prediction came kind of true. She figured out who Carver was. Then of course there's this whole conflict over that. And then they do get separated at the end and Roman is taken by Dacre. So I would say on the whole, I really enjoyed this book. I was enthralled by it. I was really invested in it. I will say I did get more than a little. I got really annoyed by Iris being so stupid and mad at Roman for lying to her and the whole you're just doing this to one up me again. It just felt so stupid and cheesy. I'm this man followed you to a war zone, shielded you with his own body. It was very clear that they had feelings for each other. When he was injured, he was don't leave my side. She was kissing his hand. They were very much it was this moment where nothing else in the past mattered. He was on death's door and they were just acknowledging their feelings for each other all of a sudden. And then she finds out that he's Carver and it's just oh my gosh, he's tricked me. He's at it again. It felt stupid. So that honestly kind of took me out of the story a little bit. It really made me cringe. And I really felt she had no reason to be mad at him. I personally would have enjoyed that, like the love story, more if it had been like kind of like an epiphany for her, and she realized like, oh my gosh, like this is Carver, this is the person that I'm truly falling for, and like she just kind of accepted that. It felt like kind of like a forced conflict to me. It was really cheesy, and if I had been Roman, I would have been like super pissed, and it would have really like taken the spark out of the relationship if, when like Iris found out who I was, just like left me in the hospital for days on end, and it like wouldn't talk to me. Like, no, we're done. That's not gonna work for me. So I felt like Roman had way more of a reason to be mad at Iris for her like immature response than she did like to be like, I just felt like she had no reason to be mad at him. Those kind of like forced conflicts really grate on my nerves. Like I don't like it. I guess like I can understand like how it kind of creates more tension, and like it really like pulls you in to like be like, try to get the conflict resolved. But for me, I'm just like, no, this is silly. This is stupid. So that was one thing that really bothered me, I guess, about the book, was that kind of like forced conflict. Like Iris is smarter than that. Like you can't, lead me to believe that this like brilliant young woman who is so smart and fearless and selfless like can't realize when somebody is very clearly in love with her. I don't know. But that aside, I enjoyed the ending. I enjoyed the kind of cliffhanger that we're left on, and I can't wait to start the next book, Ruthless Vows. I should be getting my copy in the mail today, and I do still have some listening hours on Spotify that I will use to kind of start listening before it gets here, because I can't wait to find out what happens. I need to know. I'll update hopefully this evening with kind of like my thoughts on the sequel and where things are going at that point. But at this point, I am really enjoying the story. It's very good. It's very well written. It definitely has my heart right now. So I just ran to my local library. I got an email from Amazon that my order with Ruthless Vows would not be in today, and it probably won't be in until later this week. So I was like, let me just check and see if it's available at my library, and it was. So I went ahead and grabbed it, and I will read this copy while I wait for mine to come in. I might even be finished with it by the time mine comes in, but at least I'll have my own brand new beautiful copy. At this point, I am on chapter 8, I think, when Iris and Addie are breaking in to get the typewriter. So far, I think I'm enjoying Ruthless Vows even more than the first book, even more than Devine Rivals. They're both good, but I feel like this one is like a little bit more original, I guess. I did feel like Devine Rivals just kind of fell into a lot of like, cliches and tropes. But it was still like very good and very engaging. But I'm liking this one a lot too. So I'm excited. I'm gonna keep listening while I walk, and then hopefully start reading a little bit later on.
She said you can call me Elizabeth. I can't.
Hey, today is Tuesday, and I'm about 3/4 of the way through Ruthless Vows. At this point, I'm really liking how a lot of the characters are kind of like coupling up, like Addie and Tobias, like kind of watching them fall in love, and then Forrest and Sarah. I think that I'm enjoying this book way more than I thought I would. I kind of just, thought that it would be a light, fun little YA read, but it is definitely turning out to be much more than that. It's kind of showing the darknesses of war. I do feel like there have been a couple of missed opportunities, nothing major, but I was thinking the other day and I thought, it would have been really cool, especially this being a book about journalists and about journalism and the effects and importance of good journalism and kind of the effects of propaganda. I wish there had been more like mass population involvement, like kind of seeing or showing or talking about how what is being written is affecting the viewpoints and the paradigm shifting of the population, to kind of use the population as either kind of, a leveraging point for the story or as another kind of antagonist. I feel like that would have been a nice addition and very realistic, like just, the way that the population, feeds off of itself, feeds off of its own ideas, and kind of radicalizes or mobilizes based on these ideas. I feel like the conflict between the gods is a little too clean. I guess, maybe that'll change in the last 100 pages, but at this point I'm like, it is just too convenient that Enva is like, this good, great goddess, and then Dacre is the evil bad guy. Like, we need to complicate this a little bit. We need to complicate this idea of good and evil, in my opinion. I feel like when it comes to people or beings or entities in power, I don't feel like there's ever, a clear-cut good and evil. It generally comes down to self-interests and money and self-preservation. So I'm hoping, I guess, that maybe there's a little of that at the end. Like maybe there's some sort of like reveal. But yeah, that's where I'm at this point. We have just had the explosion, and I'm just now getting into part 4, the final part of the book, and I just want Roman and Iris to be together so badly. That's another thing too. I'm just like, in my mind over and over again, I'm like, there's been so many opportunities for Roman to get away, for them to just take off and be together, and he's just held back, and I don't feel like there's been really a good reason for that. I mean, of course there are like pressures involved, but he's had so many opportunities to get away from those pressures, and it just irks my soul that, of course, like, they're at this event, and as soon as he decides like, we're just going to get away, I'm going to take her and we're going to run, there's this explosion and they're separated once again, of course. But that is one thing. I'm glad I remembered that. That is one thing that has been bothering me this whole time. I'm like, Roman, you have had so many opportunities. I feel like we need Nan to come back and be like slapping some sense into him and being like, what are you doing here? What are you still doing here? Take your girl and go. Nan, please come in clutch in the final hour. Please talk some sense into your grandson. But yeah, it's a great book. It's a great story. I will definitely be reading more Rebecca Ross in the future. I already have A River Enchanted now on my TBR on Goodreads. So my next update will be the grand finale, the end of the book. And now I'm going to go to work. It is almost 7 o'clock. I'm running later than I normally would. I wanted to give a brief update because I haven't touched it in a while. But yeah, I'll check in with everybody soon. Hey friends. So I finished Ruthless Vows, I think Tuesday night. And I've just kind of been sitting on my review for a little bit and, trying to kind of, I guess, like make sense of my thoughts and feelings on both Ruthless Vows and the series as a whole. Overall, I really enjoyed this series. I think it is very interesting and unique. Some of the premises and themes, well, not necessarily the themes, but the way that it's written, the kind of the blending of genres is very unique. This very much reads like a World War I love story. I do think I've kind of come to the conclusion that I do think the war side of the story was not told very well. I feel like for, a book and a story that focuses so heavily on war, it did feel very surface level and very black and white, and war really just is never that simple, in my opinion. I don't think that, the good and the bad were adequately explored. Like, it was just kind of accepted, like, oh, Enva is good and is trying to defeat Dacre, who is this mean, evil, bad guy. And I don't know, I don't buy that. I felt like some of the instances of war and the kind of covert propaganda stuff was a good idea because, this is a book about journalism just as much as it is about war. But again, like I felt like it was not explored very deeply, and we weren't confronted with any of the nuances of that, and the people, the populace, wasn't really grappling with any of that. I really wish we had seen more or explored more of like the populace narrative and like how the citizens of these places were feeling, and I feel like that was just ignored entirely. I feel like especially during times of war, people have very strong feelings, and this kind of mob mentality can kind of take root, and it's really interesting and can be really rich and a great place to include more nuance and conflict in a story. And that just wasn't touched on at all, and I feel like that's a very human aspect of war that would have done well to be included in a story about war and a story about journalism. Again, overall, I really enjoyed these. I would definitely read these again. So for that reason, I would definitely, I'm leaning more toward like 4.5, 5 stars for this series as a whole. But just with those like couple kind of critiques. But again, I can't expect, perfection from everybody. Anyways, I think that's where I'm going to leave this video off. I don't think I have a whole lot else to say about the series. Again, it's good. It was a good read, but I just don't feel like there was enough depth to the book to, really elicit further analysis and investigation. So overall, highly enjoyed. I would say it's worth the hype. I've seen some reviews saying that people don't think it's necessarily worth the hype, but I would say overall, I think it is. It definitely has that nostalgic, good feeling, I guess, of emotional attachment and investment. Anyways, I hope everybody is taking care and having a good week and a good weekend, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye.